you know what, let's just jump in because I've got some people to train today. You guys want to talk real quick about the lists and tags? Do you guys use tags at all? Have you been using them for anything like reporting, network organization? How have you guys been using tags?
I've been using them exactly the way you outlined in the data-driven course.
Yeah.
Tagging no replies, invited pendings, replied in funnel, not a lead. And I had a really good call a couple of days ago with Mike, and we talked about switching that over to lead lists and how to go about, getting ready for the changes that are coming up. Because I've just gotten used to, running campaigns with tags, and now I'm going to have to learn how to change it. So.
Yeah. Did you get everything switched over already?
No, I'm kind of half and half right now. Like I'm tagging people, and I'm also putting them in lead lists. So I'm in the process of making that change.
Yeah. How many people do you have tagged, do you think?
Probably about 700.
Okay, great. You're still in the sweet spot. So I would just go to search, click your tag, and then select all, and then add them to that list in bulk. That's how I would make that migration. And if you only have 700, you should be able to do that in 10 minutes.
Okay. Cut it down under 250 a piece, Isaac. Remember?
Actually, can Jer send me a screenshot? I'm going to share my screen here.
It's still at 250 for some people, I believe. If
it is. Give me a second here. Check this out. You see my whole screen? Do you see this right here? Oops. Do you see that pop up here? So he sent me this morning. So he was messing with it. It says up to 1,000 leads may be added to the list.
Yeah, that's a significant thing. Now it's still limited to 1,000, but that's still significant. That's really significant.
But wait, there's more.
There's what's the total?
I don't know what the new total is. I have no idea.
This is not 5,000, don't you think?
I'm guessing. So this is not a team account. This is pro. So 1,500 was the max. He saw this at 21. What they did is they auto-migrated some of the tags to a list, and then it bumped it up above 1,500. So my expectation is when your account loses tags, you get an increase in the save list. But I looked at the documentation, and they compared the business plans, and it still says the old numbers 1,500 and 5,000. So fingers crossed, it won't be too much of a kick in the rear.
11:30 or 2:30. Oops, sorry.
No, you're good. So if my big beef with them getting rid of tags, because lead lists work better functionally in search because you can include, exclude, and then there's all kinds of like new stuff in the list features, but tags are just way more scalable. That was my big beef, is lead lists not being scalable. So I really like to see that.
It requires a different way of doing all the things you do with tags and leads because of the capacity issues, and also now you're bringing lesser qualified folks into your homepage on Sales Navigator. I've been reserving the homepage on Sales Navigator just for really super qualified folks, not target list sort of people. And target list people are going to show up there for good or bad. I mean, not necessarily a bad thing, but before they connect, tags. After they connect, lead lists is what we've been doing. It's
that's exactly what we did. Yep, that's exactly what we did. Yeah, and I feel like we'll just have to deal with it. But yeah, that's a pain point, because if you're using lead lists to create a better outreach list in the beginning, one big is that if you go to lead alerts, then you're going to include people who you've not identified as a for sure good lead yet. Right?
Yeah, a rather crowded list of folks. Yeah. It's starting to look more like the homepage of LinkedIn and less like the homepage of Sales Navigator in that case.
Yeah.
But here's the flip side, Isaac. Let's play the other side, right? On the other side is, we're able to nurture folks that we've not yet invited, and nurturing more folks as long as it isn't precipitously that much more time, which it is. Is the flip side of that. Finding the folks you care the most about buried within the bunch of folks that are just on a target list is what this will be. I'm planning on using lead lists for targeting. They go into my systems, and then I can flush that lead list and create a new one. I'm going to have operational lead lists, not permanent lead lists. Is how we're looking at it. The permanent ones, and then the ones that we just create to flush. Because once I load them into my automation systems, I don't need the lead list anymore at all. I can go on to the next one. I just got to keep track of what I used. Scott and I are doing a lot of stuff with tags and lead lists now. We have to redo a whole bunch of stuff. We're engineering it together right now.
Yeah, I think if you're if you're doing LinkedIn yourself, if you're not an agency, you probably could get away with just using lists to keep track of everything. I feel like where you'll want to like bring in like maybe a Google Sheet list and a data studio for reporting is when you've really been hitting it hard for a long time. And I feel like that's mostly going to be if you're an agency needing to keep historical data for clients. Right, Paul. So Paul, what do you think? Since you're not an agency owner, you're doing this yourself. Do you feel like if you had 5,000 saved, if you could save 5,000 people, is that enough for you to work through on your own, or do you feel like that's not enough?
Well, I've been doing this for about 6 weeks now, and like I said, I have around 700 people tagged, so I'm not sure how this is going to scale yet. And one of the things that I'm still struggling with is when I first started my campaign, I had everybody that I was tracking with tags, and I was putting them into the KPI reporting spreadsheet. But then after I had been running that campaign for about a month, and I wanted to make some changes to my messaging and then see how that affected the numbers, I was struggling with how to segment the new data, the new people that I had changed my messaging or changed my outreach strategy with, and try to keep those separate from the original people and not have all of the numbers averaged together. I wanted to just keep track of the new campaign separately. And so I haven't really gotten to the point yet where I've hit any of those limits, but I think I probably will soon, because I have my original outreach that I was tracking with tags. Then I have the new campaign that I've been running for a couple of weeks tracked with in a lead list. And so probably when I make more changes and I want to track that separately, I'm probably going to have to start setting up different lead lists or like numbering them,
Yeah, if you're not using something that would automatically broadcast a message and then do a split test for you, your only option, to my knowledge, is to use naming conventions in tags or lead lists moving forward, just naming conventions in lead lists to split up the two different audiences and see how things are doing. I think that's your only way. You guys, any other thoughts on splitting people up and tracking different acceptance rates, reply rates, interest, conversions? It's the only option.
Yeah, so I haven't hit any of the number barriers yet, so I'm not sure how that's going to work for me.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you. Yeah.
On your example here, I'm just enthralled at your custom lists and your 3 red circles there. And Scott and I are probably looking at that, going like, what are your strategies in their custom lists up there? If they're not a lead, why not just take them off of the nonprofits list? You're doing something special with not a lead, I would just untag them and they're not a lead. They're not on the nonprofits lead list. But you're doing something different there. I want to hear what you're doing.
Well, okay, so these are companies. These are, for everyone who's not familiar with this is an account list. And then we always go through, when we're doing onboarding, we'll go through our client's client list. And then we'll add every company that has a company page to this list here, to the client list. We just don't ever want to accidentally prospect a company that is already their client, because it makes them look really bad.
Okay, I didn't catch that those were accounts.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Keep talking though. Keep talking. That's helpful for me to know.
Yeah, so we do that, and this is kind of optional, where you could just work off of a lead list. Like you could this is a people search. You could ditch this, right? And then, do your search and then work off of the search, or you could create a list of companies that you want to definitely prospect and then work off of this list as well. So just
can you combine accounts and leads. It's either accounts or it's leads you're doing there under.
Ooh, so here's what you can do is you can go to within saved. Let me see here.
Because I do the do not send list, which is a lead list. So you couldn't use account lists and lead lists together. One would have to go, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to think. You're right in the normal search. I'm trying to remember if you're in here. Let's go to account. Maybe this. My saved accounts. So I don't think you can do the actual list. Nope. I think your only option might be to do this, and it's not even going to be a good option. So here you're searching only within your saved leads. Yeah, it's probably, is there a difference? Because I don't think there's a difference between that.
How is it that you're only, I see what you're searching within your saved leads. No, I'm just, when you were, that search you were doing there, you were excluding clients and not a lead and some other things. If you had a do not send list of specific people, you couldn't use that there. You have to use one or the other, right? Either you're doing account stuff and saying not this account stuff, yes and no on account stuff, or yes and no on lead lists, but you can't have both, can you? That's what I'm wondering.
I think you can. Yeah,
right.
Can't you include the account that they're in as part of the filter, even when you're filtering leads?
Right, as of right now, you can only do one or the other on account or lead. And then you can, though, only search for people within all of your saved accounts, not a dedicated lead list. If you want to do also.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought. I thought maybe there was some trick or something that we could.
No, but I feel like that should be the direction they go, you know. Who knows? But right now, I think that's all you can do.
I'm really seeing a lot of value, and I set up a do not send list for everybody. And I have part of my standard process is if there's anybody for any reason, just add it to do not send. And
I just got logged out.
Worry free.
What's going on? Okay.
That was one of the best things we set up, Isaac, how we kind of came up with that, how that idea of do not send came up. Because if you're doing messaging campaigns, it's quite possible you hit someone again.
It really is. Yep. Nope. Guys, give me 1 second. All right, cool. Do you want to, so for reporting, hey, what's up, Alfred? Good to see you, bud. So I think that we're going to, no, you're good, man. I think that the way that we're going to move towards reporting as far as like for agency level reporting is I think we're going to move towards using Data Studio and Google Sheets and then creating the list, grabbing the list, putting it in a Google Sheet, and then doing like the sum total for a date and then bring it in like that. I feel like that's it's probably a little bit too much if you're on your own, but I feel like that's something that we'd want to do. Do you get any thoughts on that?
You have a lot more touch points in what you do than what we do over here, man. There's some fine engineering with what you got going on. Compared.
What about you? What about you, Susan?
Well, so what your reporting sounds a lot more extensive than ours does. And first of all, we don't work with anywhere near the number of leads or prospects that you guys do because we are eliminating them. We don't send anything to anybody that the client hasn't said, I want to talk to these people specifically. So the numbers are much lower, and the reporting that we're doing is not. Are you giving them, like you're showing them everybody that you've reached out to and where they are along the path?
No, what we do is our clients are only concerned with conversions to sales funnel.
Yeah.
But it's nice for them to see the broad scope of what we're doing to be aware of how to get there. And it's nice for us to be able to look at the individual milestones in a campaign and see what is underperforming or overperforming. So we want to see what are the connection acceptance rates. We want to see what are the reply rates, what are the interest rates, what are the conversion rates, how many people that we talk to are not a lead, what do we need to clean up in the lead list. And so that's part of it. It's a double helpful, because we give to our clients as a report, and then it gives us campaign insights for optimization.
Yeah, so I guess we're doing the same. The project management implementation folks, the managers keeping up with that same data, but it's just being done by hand. Because I guess with the numbers being, if you guys got a magic way to do it, I would love to hear about it. But
I'm using systems and tools that give me a dashboard with data. If you snapshot it each day, it's pretty valuable. The amount of connection requests, connections made, responses and stuff. I don't know anyone who snapshots it every day, but if somebody wanted to, it's like, what's my normal numbers while I'm getting my coffee or something, and go on into systems. Gathering that stuff up manually is another story. It's probably still not that hard, but it's kind of nice to have a dashboard that shows you 1, 2, 3 days, a week, a month, stats.
What I would love to see, Mike, is something like that just shows me where we wanted to be and where we actually were. So if there's like a gap in the performance that's building, or if it's performing better than we thought, then we got to go in and see what happened so we can do it elsewhere.
I'm doing I don't know if it's called a white paper or what, but it's instructions for my clients. It might be more public on that, where we're redesigning the engineering process, because I do automation beginning to end. And I've got it. I'm re-engineering with 2 clients now. We're going to do this with, where we're going to automate the connection request. The welcome message is totally custom, specific to them. Oh, your daughter's name is Jackie, whatever it is that they can do. They give it 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, if they don't get a response, then we put them on a automated drip campaign using the same tool. It's just a different campaign. Connector campaign, manual, drip campaign with messages. So I've got 2 clients I'm doing that with, and we're re-engineering stuff so that we can put a real personal element to it at the part that matters the most. The folks that actually connect when they first see you, they first experienced you, they just connected. That's the time to be cuddly and warm and all, little less canned, because we're canning those messages too for most folks. And I pulled the brakes back a little bit on that to insert this little intermediate thing, because my tool supports that now. They added new features that make this possible. So I'm rolling out new features.
Yeah.
It's a $75 a month tool. I mean, it's not super expensive. It's $75.
So I'll tell you what I've been playing with. It's really interesting. This is going to take it off of the reporting topic. But have you guys looked at Crystal Knows?
Mm-hmm. The personality evaluator based on their profile. Mm-hmm.
So I had looked at it when it first came out about 4 years ago, and it wasn't ready. But so I somebody pointed it out to me about a month ago, and what it gives you is it'll look at the profile of the person and tell you, and it fits it into a DISC personality thing, and then it just gives you some notes on how to email them, what to include in an email message, what to include when you're talking to them.
I'm sorry, keep going.
I was just going to say,
I work with something similar. I jumped right on into. I work with something similar to that, and it was
the
garbage in, garbage in, garbage out.
You used the bank thing, right? Because you were the one that told me about that. That one didn't work well for me. We're just using this at a very high level that says, and most clients, if most people in a target audience will fall into very similar personalities just because that's the job that they're in. But when you're starting off, it gives you it just puts you in the right thinking process about how much information is this person going to want to get. If you are messaging somebody that's a really dominant captain personality type, 3 sentences is all that you want to say to them. But then some people want a little bit more information. So I'm finding it really interesting.
I think it's fantastic if there's some good results from it and stuff.
I'll let you know when we actually have numbers. I mean, we are testing it now.
You know, like I work with this group of franchised sort of folks, and the about section on one is just rubber stamp from one to another throughout it. I try to undo that when I meet them, but literally you'd find nothing about their personality whatsoever by putting that into whatever system you're trying to reverse engineer, whether they're left brain or right brain or D or low D or whatever. Because it's corporate speak that's been put in by somebody, not even them. You don't even know.
Where I see it getting the most accurate is if you do have to have something they wrote. So if it's like an email that they're, but then you got to know them. So that takes it out. I'm trying to find a way to magically know how to talk to somebody that I've never met before. And that's
help
the
us when you
closest
do.
that I've come.
You know, we all want to know that one.
Yeah.
Yes, it's always important to be able to communicate with your audience based off of what their expectations are. We usually just ask our clients based off of their previous sales experience. So there's Crystal's a good solution, Susan, totally, or at least worth looking into.
Facebook is a good solution, Isaac. I direct my folks in my training to look them up on Facebook and see what they can find. And so I have to teach them how to search on Facebook. They don't have to have squat for a profile or anything. No one can see that they saw them. You're just doing data intelligence to see whether they swing left, they went to the Trump rally, or they went to the George Floyd rally, if you know what I mean. And just if you find out whether they're voting this week or whether they're hunkered down, the things you find on a Facebook timeline are tremendous. But I haven't found a way to put that into a tool.
Yeah, let me know when you do that.
Hey, Mike, I agree with you. The great thing about Facebook is that people actually use their real name. If you try to find them on Twitter, they use an alias. Instagram, they use an alias. Any other platform, well, except here on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn and Facebook are easy ways to find people because they use real names. So I agree with you, Mike.
Yeah, to go to a dating site and see what they use. Salty and spicy is one of their. I mean, you just see what names are like over there. Go to Match.com.
Why, is that the one you use, Mike?
I just got back on Match. Yeah, just in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, hey, you may want to edit this out, Isaac, in your video.
Oh no, this is getting featured. Hey, I threw a link in the chat.
It's amazing what they use. They like the word salty and spicy. You name something that you can taste, and that's their name.
Hey, Mike, don't hold a cat because everyone's going to be swiping left. Hold a dog, they'll swipe right. Just word for.
It's funny, yeah. Match has swiped left and right now, like Tinder did, way back when. So
check out that link that I dropped in the chat, Norns.ai. I got a message from a guy. I'm going to do a demo call with him. They have a tool that will probably supplement what Susan was saying. So Crystal is pretty good for evaluating the personality types so that you can communicate effectively. What this tool does, and I'm not even quite sure on the cost and everything, but if you scroll down where it says get extra data about your leads, it'll basically like quickly grab a bunch of their stuff that's on LinkedIn. So like the keywords that use the most are hashtags, the frequency of their activity, days when they're on LinkedIn the most, right? So they told me that, and I was like, that's really interesting because that would be very helpful for a lot of reasons. So you might want to try that out too.
they got a $49 monthly deal. Is that what you're talking about? It must be, because the next thing up is $7.79. So
yeah. So I feel like the Crystal is good for figuring out your communication style or their communication style. And then something like this takes it to the next level where, like the kind of thing that they're actually talking about when they're posting on LinkedIn the most often, that kind of thing can be helpful.
That's interesting.
this is a pretty new tool, isn't it? I mean, they still say features are coming.
I think it is. And I'm sure that things like this are going to keep on coming.
That's good to see.
I find it very helpful. Yeah. I mean, like I find myself on doing like stuff for my company in a rhythm throughout the week. And if somebody can figure out my work rhythm and know when I'm going to be on LinkedIn, they can send me a message and they're going to be more likely to get a hold of me. So.
It's yes, your work rhythm on a day, certain day at 2 o'clock, you had no appointment, most days at 2 o'clock I do. So we'll kind of shoot holes in the what time of day you are, as long as you're, don't have any calls with anybody,
You might even find,
when it comes to rhythms, it's important to keep track of rhythms change. I found the rhythm during COVID, people were more engaged. Now that people are going back to work, rhythms have changed and engagement is not as intense as it used to be. So it's important to these rhythms do change. So it is true, Isaac.
they totally change. But I mean, if you want to look back in the last month, I mean, just look back in the last month and see, are they engaging more after hours? Are they engaging more during business hours? We ran a test for a client last week where I thought for sure, because of the nature of the title, that they would only be interested in doing LinkedIn Talk on the clock. But we just, for the kicks and giggles, ran connection requests after 5, and the acceptance rate and the reply rate was way higher. Like, people were replying to the connection requests, but they were like salary employees. I was very surprised. So
there's multiple buckets of people in that category. You got your 8 to 5, your work hour sort of people, your evening people, and your weekend people, maybe.
Yeah.
And if you could
they're job searching on LinkedIn, so that's why they're doing it after hours.
Well,
could be.
Mike, I find my connection acceptance is that window between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. because people are just waking up and checking their emails and they see in their email they were sent a connection. Or I find people accept my connection rate after 9, between that window of 9 and 10, because that's when the kids have gone to bed, they're sitting on the couch, the TV's on as background noise, and they're going through their last minute emails and going to the unimportant mail. Not that my connection request is unimportant, but I find my sweet time is 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's when people connect, at least with me.
But that's when they connect. But is that when you actually send it during that period then?
No, I send a lot of times midday, but people usually don't accept the connection until the early morning or the late evening.
Huh. That's interesting. There's ways to check and stuff, but you gotta watch that stuff daily, because it goes, instead of so many hours ago, it goes to days ago, and then you lost your data once it flips to days, right? That's interesting. I didn't know that. I learned great stuff from you guys.
All right, we're half past the hour. So we're half past the hour. Let's jump into fall COVID messaging. Susan's topic there. Susan, what was on your mind about that?
I'm looking to find out what you guys are thinking about, and what you're seeing. We're not really seeing pattern changes happening right now. And like you, I feel like there's a freight train out there that's coming, that something's going to, I mean, what we are seeing is a vastly increased amount of noise, which was already too much on LinkedIn. And it just becomes more and more crap to wade through. But as far as the response rates that we're getting and how our clients are doing, it doesn't. We haven't seen any massive changes, except in some areas of, like, say, IT consultants that have their big challenge is how do they deal with all the people that are coming into them and want to work with them.
Susan, did you like pivot your messaging when the lockdowns happened and everything to, like, was that part of the conversation for your clients?
Yeah, what we did was, actually in some cases it became easier, because whoever it was it Alfred that was saying, people they weren't working, or they wanted to be able to connect and talk with you. And now they're getting a little bit more distracted. But what we were finding was that when you got from the initial conversation and moving it through to it being a selling opportunity, that what had happened was that our clients' buyers had stopped buying big stuff. They weren't going to they weren't going to commit to a $150,000 annual contract for consulting or something like that, but they were still willing to buy a smaller essential, like tip of the spear, what really needs to be done stuff. And so we were working with them to craft or fashion whatever that was, that get in the door product for them or service for them to keep them going. But we didn't do much COVID related stuff. I mean, you were on that. We didn't want to be tone deaf, but we also didn't want to be another one of those. Are you safe? I hope you're safe. How can I help? Kind of stuff.
In these unprecedented times.
Well, I've found that people during COVID, they were more conversational in their messaging. And now that we're out of COVID, I don't know what that means, but they're going right to the kill. They're no longer trying to have a conversation. People are going right into the sale saying, this is what I sell. Are you interested? Without any of the wine and dining conversation. But that's what I'm finding, how people are connecting with me.
That's what
I
you're
don't
seeing
use that style,
Yeah.
but people go right for the kill now instead of trying to identify needs. They're just going right into sales.
Well, the kind of catch-22 of this is that when everyone just wants to talk to you and get to know you, I mean, how many, if you actually have work to do besides just relating with people, how many Zoom calls can you do? I mean, how many, and how many, just kind of getting to know you conversations can you have? I mean, I don't know. I'm at the rate now, I'm getting about, however I'm doing it, I'm getting close to 100 invites a day. So, I can't even have that many conversations. So
that's the automated apps that are sending that stuff out.
No, that's
you're getting 100 that are actually speaking to you.
Yeah, but that's on my personal thing, and I actually am not doing any outbound. That's entirely inbound because my profile's so awesome. I mean, because I'm listed as a CEO, and everybody wants to sell me, virtual assistants and marketing companies and offshore development, and the franchise consultants are all now hitting me, right? So, but the thing is, and this is the question, like Mike, this is the question Steven's asking me is it's like, okay, if everybody's saying, hey, let's getting to know you conversation, don't I need to say something that maybe it doesn't click with everybody, but for the people it really resonates for, that really grabs their attention and really stands out? His thing is the saying, I help healthcare companies raise up to $50 million in 6 to 9 months. And he's wanting to lead with something like that, even if it's not a fit for them, it's fit for somebody they know, something that grabs their attention. And in one sentence, maybe it's not the sales pitch, but that really stands out. And, from, hey, I help entrepreneurs grow their business and just like to get to know you. Right. So that's the question is, in that noise, don't we need to find a way to stand out a little more than just hey, let's have a conversation?
Every time somebody's like, hey, let's do a Zoom call, I'm like, no, I'm way too busy to do a meet and greet. You need to be for real worth my time. Yeah, I would have said that when I first got started because I was desperate and will take any kind of opportunity. And now anytime that happens, I'm just like, no. You don't even understand my schedule. But
I have a text expander. I have a text expander reply on that now. So
well, a good messaging.
I just completed Bryn Tillman's 4-week course. I paid $300 for it. It was wonderful. the first week is profiles, the second week is this, the third week is messages, the fourth week is engagement, you know, and it was worth the $300. If she's got a sales navigator class she's working on, probably going to buy that too. I don't buy a lot of stuff from my peers. I learn from my peers, but I drop the coin for it. And one of the big central points on it is the ask-offer ratio. Earning the right for them to even ask for them to look at your content or something. What have you done, or what have you shown that shows that I'm not just anybody on any list, but I'm very specific and you're very looking at me, and it's a smaller campaign with more targeted stuff perhaps in that environment. But she does everything manual. So I incorporated that manual segment in the middle because I learned from her. You know, I busted my design to put something in the middle with what I learned, because there's some little, I believe, personal component that's needed somewhere along the line, just not everywhere. Yeah. And if it's too much on the connection request, you're 3/4 of the people are not going to connect anyway. You're polishing your scrap metal. So, but we're focusing now. All of my clients, I take their profile, I put it into a Google Doc, and we highlight in bold how much shows on the browser app without clicking see more, and then we do it on the phone as well. We do that as well with red text in one case, black on another. So we're seeing the preview of stuff. The first 6 words or so of your headline does not need to be repeated in your message because they see it right there. It's the beginning of your message, sort of. So that's the kind of engineering I'm trying to do with messages on the previews and stuff like that to try to get the connect rate up. I can't do stuff afterwards if they don't connect in the first place. So it's the headline, the picture, the stuff they see without clicking anything more that I'm super focused on. I could use help in coming up with what 6 words I might use that they can see and preview on a phone. You know, I haven't gotten that engineering done yet. But I think that's where the battle is being won. We can't do the post-connection stuff if they don't connect in the first place.
Right.
You don't have a child if you never get pregnant.
Mike, you know, that's the concept, you know, what you're talking about that, you know, that sort of earning the right. That's what we talk about. That's one of the core concepts in the virtual handshake stuff that I've been teaching for years, is to talking about the action threshold. Is, you know, how well do you, you know, at what point does the relationship have to be for them to take action on your behalf?
Yeah, we might think we're offering them and we're giving them something. Here's this content. No, we're asking them to take time out of their lives to look at shit that we want them to look at.
Hey, that action threshold concept, can I share that with everyone for like 2.5 minutes? I think it's topic. It's an absolutely, it is in my mind the most critical thing in online relationships, is this idea of the action threshold, which is how well does someone have to know you to be willing to take action on your behalf? And it's contextual, right? If you're standing in line at the grocery store and you're, you know, 75 cents short, you don't have to know, the person in line behind you doesn't have to know you well at all to be well saying, hey, I got this, right? But if you're, you know, if it's $100, well, they've got to know you, you know, obviously it's, you know, they're probably only going to do that to friends. If you're talking about getting a company to invest in your, you know, a VC to invest in your company, they're going to get to know you real well before they give you $100,000 or $1 million or $5 or $10 million. They're going to be in it, right? And so how well it is depends on the size of the ask. Now, the reason what I found is so super important about this is there's the reactive threshold, which is how well do they have to know you to take action in response to a request from you. And again, it depends on the size of the ask. It's a curve, right? But then there's the proactive action threshold, which is how well do they have to know you to take action on your behalf without you asking them? How well do they have to know you to get you for them to refer opportunities to you and make introductions without you ever asking? And this is one of the reasons that long ago, even though yes, I've got a large network, I focused on strong relationships. And my weak relationships a lot of times get little or no response because I do things, because I do big things for stronger relationships to sort of, to set that up. And that's, that's why I get people doing stuff for me and doing referrals even, that's why when I went back to freelance consulting, I reached out to about 10 people and I had 4 clients within 2 weeks. And that was a full plate for me at the time.
You planted those seeds long ago, right?
Right. Yeah. And so I think just having that paradigm, that model of the action threshold of at what point do I have to get the relationship to before I get to the ask maps really well to what you were talking about. And if I were being more intentional and more organized about it, I would have a set of targets for, I'd have some defined action thresholds. These are the asks I want from people, and have targets by the action threshold that I'm trying to sort of get that relationship to. So if I'm looking for people to provide referrals or to whatever it may be, that may be at this point. But if I'm looking for people to say, to be at that proactive threshold, then, have a set of targets at that, and really, that's my vision, is to organize my strategies around some defined specific action thresholds and have an idea, what are the criteria? How do I know when I'm at that threshold with someone, and have a process to get to that threshold with people, and to figure out how to automate that, at least, for those early stage ones. The later stage ones take more of a white glove approach, but that's where I'm thinking strategically.
That sounds more like relational selling than, just getting a list of people that you're just trying to cull through and get to the next list. So that's like a long-term sales process. Now, personally, that's how I sell. Like I want to know people and help them through the process, whatever that is. But that's not, here's a list of people, get a meeting on the calendar. And I know somebody mentioned, I forget who, that there was concerns about the people are just coming in and going hot into wanting to talk about the sale. Well, I think that goes back to, there's been a huge dip in their sales numbers, and they're getting a lot more pressure than they were 3 months ago to get some sales on the books, because businesses are hurting. So they're kind of getting away with the foreplay, so to speak, and going right to the kill.
Tanya.
Sorry.
It's an apt metaphor.
You can cut that out, right?
I can.
I could say so many things there, being the new dater here. But I won't.
Let's bring it back.
I think you need to splice Mike talking about online dating and Tanya talking about foreplay, and this will bump your YouTube ratings 2,000%.
Yes.
I always wanted to get famous.
Let's bring it back to this fall and COVID, because I feel like that's something that we need to be preemptive about. So Susan, when the actual stay-at-home orders happened this spring, what I was assuming was everybody's going to be stuck at home, bored, online more, and it's all new, and there's an opportunity to make the connect and have a dialogue, but the buying cycle's extended, right? Like their company is going to make them be more frugal about purchasing decisions because of the uncertainty. So then in the spring, our conversational format was more like, we just want to get our foot in the door with as many people as possible so that we can work on the sale for the next 4 or 6 months, whatever. And so we didn't experience we had greater conversions to sales funnel, greater acceptance rates during stay-at-home orders. And then during the summer here, it kind of plateaued back to what we saw before. And I think that the difference this fall, I think, is people will be less bothered. It's going to be a new normal. They're going to be less annoyed that they have to stay at home. They're going to be less annoyed with masks. They're going to be more bombarded with more digital sales stuff because that's what happened and it's stuck. And I think that what we have to do for our sales dialogue is I think that we have to come at it this fall with the angle where it's like, I get your work pressure. Like, I don't think it's a, let's do a Zoom meeting to get to know each other. Way too busy. People are way too pressured for that. It's not a direct pitch, but what we've been seeing working, and I could see it being, this depends on what you're selling to, but I could see it being like really helpful this fall because of the pressure to spend wisely, is to right out of the gate be like, hey, I get it, that this is like, I get it. Are you guys doing any of this right now? You know, and just to come in almost like asking them where their company is at. This might be different if you're selling to the end buyer. Like, we're mostly working with B2B, so it's not hostile when we're talking to the vendor procurement or the whatever the person is, that it's not their money directly. So if we can come in with the angle where we're asking, like, is this something in this weird time you guys are even doing right now? We found pretty good reply rates because we're taking the time to ask them where they're at. But yeah, I don't know. That might be a good fall strategy, because I think that you can't get away with, hey, let's have a quarantine connection. You can't get away with, oh, we're all stuck at home now. You can't get away with what you got away with this spring, you know, because it's just a little bit different. But that's my 2 cents for this fall.
What are we going to call this period? It needs
Sharona.
It needs to have a post-corona.
But is it post?
It's not post.
It's not. No, it needs a name. We need a name. You know how you got the beginning, middle, and end? What's the name of the middle?
I think the Mayans had it. The Mayans were 8 years too early.
Yeah.
Let's come up with some words to use to describe it here. We've got some great minds. I'm about to write a shitload of messages for people, and I could really use your help in describing and helping me craft some messages to folks. And they're not one-on-one. These are going to be, one-to-many. Whatever.
Not post-corona, but my Sharona.
Sharona. Boom, 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 boom.
I had that.
One thing I know for sure from my perspective is, in the beginning, when people didn't know how to use technology, for example, Zoom, and they didn't know how to share their computer, or they didn't realize sharing a computer, you couldn't hear volume, or their cats were in their lap. That was all cute. But for me now, if someone I was on a Zoom call with, I'm trained on how to teach people how to use the California portal when it comes to applying for jobs with the California state. And the person giving the presentation didn't understand how to use Zoom. And I thought, if this was 3 months ago and you didn't know how to use Zoom, you didn't know how to share, you didn't know how to have somebody work Zoom remotely, that was understandable. But now it was the middle of July and they still didn't understand how to use Zoom. And I had no patience for it. I wasn't forgiving at all inside my head. But, now after 3 months, if you don't know how to use a technology and you're giving a presentation and it fails, that's an automatic turnoff, at least for me.
It is with Zoom. Someone gets you on a Cisco WebEx or one of the other tools and stuff, and they're fumbling around. I was on a Teams deal where they did Microsoft Teams, and they brought people on, and no one knew where to click. And the guy who put it on was a Microsoft reseller, and he's fumbling around on how to use Microsoft Teams.
Seriously?
It was just so funny.
I would have been he would have lost all credibility with me.
Definitely.
Well, that's actually it's really important here. I was having, so there's a guy, Darren Davis, he's a friend of mine, lives in Florida. They do a bunch of stuff with ClickFunnels. Awesome guys. We were talking about the differences in funnels between a B2B sale and B2C sale. And because that's kind of like what ClickFunnels is mostly used for, right? Is B2C sale, where it all ends up, the call to action in the end is to buy it in a cart, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you're dealing with a B2B sale, the destination is not a cart unless you've got an Amex with $100,000 purchase, no problem, right? You're going to have people involved in the process. So the destination for B2B has been and still is, the destination is to set up a meeting, like to schedule a demo or a call or something. That has been the destination call to action. And I think that one big perk this fall will be that it's going to be easier for B2B sales for the person that you're talking to get on the demo call or the call, because they're now more used to this kind of environment. It's less like, oh, I'm a little bit awkward on camera now that I've just been doing it. I think that it will be easier to get people to say yes to a meeting like this if they're a qualified lead, because now they're used to it during COVID.
I'm assuming the Zoom now. I do. I assume the Zoom. Yep. And when I do my Calendly calls, they book a 30-minute call with me. It says we're going to do it on Zoom. Here's my Zoom link, and here's the backup number in case you don't want to. So I flipped to that just in the last couple of weeks, partly because
we do the same.
Quite frankly.
Yeah, we do the same.
We end up doing it anyway. I just jump right on it right away.
The thing that I have found is Google. Like anytime I have gotten a Google invite, I understand how to get onto Teams and Zoom and GoToMeeting and all those other ones. Google is a joke. I can never get in those meetings, ever. I don't know why. I just can't. And it's not me, because I am fairly intelligent. I like to believe.
Yeah, if you're doing the B2B sales meeting, if you're the salesperson, or if you're working with the clients and your client is the salesperson, you've got to set up you've got to land the meeting. Right? I hate it when you set up a calendar event and the client gets ghosted, or if I get ghosted. It's such a pain, and I think it's super critical if you're going to be setting up that meeting, which is the destination B2B call to action, to set up, to make it clear in the invite, to send the email reminder with the link, push yourself through the funnel, send a text reminder, whatever, so that the follow-through rates are as high as possible.
Hey, Isaac, when you said Darren David, this is a question, not a contribution. Darren Davidson B2B call to action destination. Could you introduce me to Darren? Because I need help in that area.
So I can. Darren Davis, they do B2C. They're also very expensive. Like their minimum entry is going to be $25,000 a month, I think. So.
Never mind.
Yeah, but I could make an introduction because they're great. Just so you know.
Can't go there.
Hey, let me ask you a question to the group here. I'm exploring Zoom channels. Has anyone done anything with Zoom channels? Is this
the Zoom room settings?
No, this is Zoom channels. You have to Google it to find it, and it's there. And it's I've got a developer who's doing some API stuff with the chat stuff, and he's doing API shit, and he came up stuff. I'm sorry, saying that word. But he came into channels, and I started looking at channels, and channels is where you can do one-to-many communications and stuff, kind of like, it's really cool. Bruce, you're going to really want to see this, but I just got into it just yesterday, started looking at it, and it seems really promising to do all kinds of really neat stuff.
Yeah, I'm leaning in because my antenna's highly tuned.
Yeah, if you type in Zoom channels in your search, it comes up with quite a lot of information on YouTube. And I love YouTube. You can click onto any of these short little videos and it will tell you right away how to use Zoom channels, how to invite someone to a Zoom channel. That's a great thing about YouTube. If you want to know anything about anything, it's a video is there.
I just Googled it and it took me to YouTube. So the results were that. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's what I started looking at yesterday. Looks like something maybe even Isaac, you might consider. If you've got a group like this, I think there's ways to put everyone into a channel group so we're all chatting and have a back channel.
I'd probably wait till it's more of a frontline feature so that I don't end up using something that becomes legacy. Yeah.
We'll see. I just stumbled into it, so.
Very cool. All right, so recap here. We're on the hour, so recap. Tags are going away. Looks like lead list quantity is being bumped up to 1,000 per list. looks like Sales Nav Pro is increasing the quantity of saved leads. I'm not sure what they are, speculation. It's 5,000 on Pro now instead of 1,500, still rolling out. This fall, COVID messaging, well, I don't even know. I don't even know. Susan, did you feel like, because you brought that up right away, anything else that we can add to that before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think it's COVID messaging. I mean, I think COVID is just with us and it's in the background and it's just what we have right now. Yeah. But I think it's interesting what you were saying about the place where people are going to be in their heads. Yeah.
It's the fall messaging versus the COVID messaging.
Yeah.
It's kind of what Isaac.
What
matters? Susan, real quick, what do you mean that the train is coming? Because I have a feeling about that too. But when I talk about the train is coming this fall, people look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. So what do you mean?
Well, I think, Alfred, it's as much as anything, it's just a feeling. It's like like the stock market nothing's happened there. Real estate, nothing's happened there. It just feels like the floor is going to fall out somewhere. And I don't.
First time unemployment filings are still sky high and they've not dropped for 2 months in a row. That's a big deal. Stock market, I think, is better than it should be. Yeah. I think I would suspect this fall at some point in time, there's going to be like a correction. I think it's like people are overly optimistic. I don't think the amount of national debt that's accrued and the amount of the GDP hit that was taken, I don't think that's fully hit home yet. And I think that when people sniff that, I think that it's going to dramatically influence a business's motivations for purchasing. And so maybe instead of saying like fall COVID messaging, it's like, how do you sell during an economic recession? Or, like how do you make it crystal clear that your clients will get a return spending with you when it's like the weirdest thing in 50 years for buying?
Pre-election sales strategy, messaging strategy.
Yeah.
Because even though it's July or August, and that's the beginning of November, we start now for pre-election strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably going to be a really good idea to right now get your foot in the door with as many people as possible and start earning their trust with those people now, so that when, like in the fall or next spring, when they need to buy, you've already earned their trust and whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah,
I think that the delay there, you need to start that now.
Yeah, that goes back, I think, to the relationship selling rather than the scattershot. Stop laughing at me, Isaac.
Sorry, I was trying to think of like, come the sailing, the sailing. Yeah, that song. I don't even know what that song is. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about
your boat.
There we go. So, I mean,
Sticks, come sail away.
Come sail away with me.
I gotta go, guys. Thanks.
Right. Thanks, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Bye, Susan.
But I agree, Tanya. It's that people buy from people they know, like, and trust.
Exactly. And if I really like Scott's idea of Mike's idea, sorry, of putting that personalization in there, but I think it needs to be more of the personalization throughout the whole thing, because then you really build those relationships of people who, like Scott did, actually trust him and will refer people and will put their neck out on the line for you because they believe in you.
Yep. And there's a point where I think this is maybe in another topic for another day. LinkedIn's great for targeting and starting that relationship, but you can also do things with like an email marketing funnel to earn their trust without sucking up your time. Like we have the daily videos. I get emails all the time from people who feel like we're good friends because they've seen me and heard me talk 100 times. And I didn't have to do anything other than set up that funnel. So there are things where you can earn their trust without it being a time suck for you.
We just launched a campaign that just like that for a client in St. Louis. They do storytelling, video storytelling. And we did the automated connection request. We did nonprofits. They target nonprofits, scrubbed the list like crazy. Yeah, I saw a nonprofit. It's not your deal. Scrub the list like crazy. All we did was an automated connection request. And then my automation tool has a trigger that kicks off a webhook so that triggers 3 automated emails that go off every 3 days or so. Every 3 days or so. So all of their communication is all in email, post connection. Yep. But they get the data into their Zoho, and the Zoho drives that stuff. So they get the email address and the first name and all that stuff to do it. And we may go back and send LinkedIn messages some other time. They just wanted to try this first, and it's working really well. They wrote really good copy.
Yeah, that's key. You know what? We probably, it's August now. Back in, I'm gonna say like April, we launched a similar process where we'll do the same thing, but we give our 2 cents on LinkedIn first, and then do the email if they don't reply. So we'll give it like 2 weeks. And if somebody doesn't reply, then we'll do that process. And I was a little bit hesitant because I was like, I don't want to spam people. But the amount of emails that we've sent and the amount of negative replies is so small, but it really depends on what you're saying. And I was surprised at how many people, looking through the CRM emails, I'm surprised to see how many people say, oh yeah, thanks for emailing me. I'm not on LinkedIn very often. I was really surprised at how many people reply with that. So that's a good move. Good to do both. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here so that we can get back to work and make some money.
Bye, everyone.
All right, appreciate you all. See ya.